So today I'm inking Megaton Man. This is a piece of artwork for the upcoming 40th anniversary of Megaton Man #1, which was in December of 1984. This is for a convention in Ohio, Northeast Ohio Con. It's going to be their 10th year, and it's going to be Megaton Man's 40th year next year in 2024. So I'm using a Raphael Kolinsky Sable Brush 8408 number 2. I have my trusty bottle of ink. This is a Higgins uh, regular, I think it's Higgins regular ink on the ceramic ink holder just to keep it from tipping over, although that never seems to help. There's the cap. I'll be using a little bit of whiteout. And you can see I've already started a little bit of the inking with a Micron PN, which is a plastic nib. It's the pointed nib, not the regular cylindrical nib. And let's see if we've got our camera sharp enough. And we're ready to go. Just gonna have to do it. All right, so to my scratch sheet of paper and just a few little warm-ups here. Nice thing about a sable brush, they're difficult to control. They take some time getting used to, but you get a nice thick, thin line. And I just follow my wrist and away we go. All right. Hope I stay on camera here. And as I say, I just follow the natural flow of the wrist. Sable brush allows me to get some thin lines in there. You want to have a variety of thick and thin. And you're barely touching the paper. The thing about a brush is that you can't really tell. It's not like a hard pencil or crayon or anything, writing pen, anything that you are familiar with that we ordinarily write with. It's uh, you don't feel any pressure that the little hairs are touching the paper. And so it's almost a visual thing. You have to almost know how far your point is from the surface of the paper. Try to get into a rhythm. You can see I turn my paper around. Some of these lines I've already inked, I kind of heavy them up a little bit. I find that the plastic nib is really good for tighter spots. I also use a Hunt 102 Crow Quill. It depends on the paper that you're using. Depends upon how congealed the ink is. Sometimes you get a little bleeding, feathering in the ink line. You don't want that. I don't want them, but And you can see I'm turning the paper around, whichever is most comfortable for my wrist. I used to be a maniac for detail, and I still put a lot of detail into my drawings, but it can be murder on your wrist if you haven't. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, see if you can zoom in. It can be murder on the wrist if you're going at it and you're not ergonomically following a natural motion. Get very tiny in the hand. So it's going to be a little hard to stay on camera here. But all the comics that I read when I was young, most of them were inked with a brush. Everybody from John Romita to Gil Kane to Joe Sinnott. Of course, Gil Kane, when he inked his own stuff, he would be inking with various kinds of pens. I believe he might have even used flare pens in those days, in the 70s. But there's certainly not much. See, I can get a very, I can manage to get a very controlled and very accurate line with the brush. Feathering is a term used to describe the thick and thin. It's also when you kind of repeat lines going in the same direction as I'm doing here. It's like a bird's feather. It will have the same direction. Also trying to give the drawing a little bit of weight and trying to give I tend to have more of my shadows in the middle of the drawing, away from the outlines. So on this arm, for example, I like to have a little thicker line just inside. As you can see, it's a little thicker, a little blacker here. Sometimes you're trying to create a shiny surface, and most superhero costumes, or mega hero costumes, as I would say, I'm imagining some kind of synthetic material, something that's relatively shiny. Um, And sometimes I'll go in a reverse angle or a reverse curve. Um, or sometimes it'll be an S curve. Heavy up some of these lines. And I try to find lines that are going in a similar direction throughout a drawing. So I might ink this line here, and then some other lines that are going in a similar direction, so I don't have to turn around too many times. Um, I might go from figure to figure. Right now I've been all just inking Megaton Man's figure here. And just to use the thin line. If I'm doing a real thin line and it's got to be real consistent, there's no use using the brush and trying to fight and trying to control it. You can just use something like the PN, Micron PN, just to do a very consistent line, and you're not fighting, trying to keep it consistent. Adept at turning my page around pretty quickly so I can position my paper. And you can see I work pretty fast with the brush. The nice thing about the brush is that it will dry pretty quickly. So there's not a lot of worry about whether it's going to smear. Now, sometimes with the other tools, depends on how much ink you're laying down. If you're using a dip pen, that can sometimes lay down a lot of ink, and then you have to let it dry. I'll use maybe a thicker kind of coarse shadow line for a line that's inside the figure, inside the confines of the outline. Plenty of opportunity for more noodling on Megaton Man. Sometimes I'll put the thick line on the outside. I tend to weight my lines toward one side of the figure. So you'll see in this figure, um, there tends to be more heavy lines on the left side. That creates the illusion that the light is coming more from the right side. And I like to get in there and do some little scribbly, scumbly lines for the ribs. Brush is very versatile. You can get metallic looking effects relatively easy. You can get wrinkly clothing, beefed up muscle, feathering. And punctuating the drawing little tiny black areas. Again, you want to kind of give weight to the drawing. And I think I finished the M in the chest. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Some people have never noticed this. But especially artists that are drawing Megaton Man, doing an interpretation of Megaton Man, they don't realize that on his chest, he's got the letter M. And so these triangular shapes that are coming out of his trunks are actually the negative space. I've taken the blackening raised in over these. Chest shadow, chin shadow there. And just give them some real thin lines here that are gonna, some of them will burn out. In the old days, I would get so detailed, some of my lines would actually burn out under the camera. And so there's a point where detail past a certain point, too much detail is not going to really do any good. But some feathering, give some wrinkles there, and I'll smooth this out a little bit. That is more or less Megaton Man figure. And I will let you go and look for this. I'll be posting the finished drawing online with something like this. That's for focus. Okay. Watching.